Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Film Seizure's third trip to Italy. We're almost on like Perillo tour, a Perillo tour card carrying members at this point. We're going to Italy every year these days.
Yeah.
We've got our second tour stop. This time in the muddy, ghost town trenches of 1966's. Yeah.
Yep.
Sergio Corbucci's minor masterpiece, Django.
Django.
Will you ever be alone?
Django.
Django, have you never loved again?
Surprise, the next 90 minutes is just this.
I mean, it's fun to sing.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, I'm Jeff Arbuckle. I'm one of the co-hosts here, and that was also Chuck Moore. Chuck, you were the ones
Chuck Moore.
Chuck
She
Moore.
stole that from me, Jeff, by not letting me introduce myself.
Never grow his hair.
Chuck Moore.
Chuck Moore. Okay, Chuck, you picked this movie.
Yeah.
You picked all the movies this month.
Yeah.
This is also a first time for me.
Here's
the thing.
Wow.
Here's the thing.
I'm rubbing my hands together.
Yeah, rub your
exciting.
hands together, because I am not anti-Western, but it is never really what I say. I'm going to go pluck a Western off the Tubi or off the Amazon or off the shelf and just throw it in. So, and also there's like literally 200 movies with Django in the title.
Right.
And so it's like, yes, I know that almost all of them are illegitimate,
There's only one official sequel.
Yeah. But
there aren't that many, but yes, there are a lot.
No, there are 200. I actually just recently had to do a deep dive.
Okay. That may be true. I think there are about 35 or so that actually have a character named Django.
Yeah, but
then they would use alternate titles for other movies to sell the movie. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
So yeah, but because I just recently watched a spaghetti Western that had people who were closely related to some of those illegitimate sequels. Also had somebody who would have played a Django character in one of those movies that ended up going to, I'll think of it later. But anyway, it's the movie I watched was Gunman from Ave Maria, or the Forgotten Pistolero. That'll be episode number 4 of the upcoming season of B-Movie Enema of the Series. Just check back in May. Anyway, I enjoy watching a good Western. I never really dug into the Django stuff, right? And I'm woefully kind of underserving the spaghetti Western subgenre of Italian.
Sure.
Right.
But that's just because there's so many of them. And to be honest with you, I will admit that my common misconception, or I fell into the common misconception that they're all the same movie. They're not at all. This movie, the
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, all, Fistful of all of those movies, the one that I watched, the Gunman from Ave Maria, they are very distinct while still having a lot of the same hallmarks. There's a big difference between having hallmarks and being the same movie. So admittedly, I kind of came in as a Django virgin.
Okay.
Dang.
Good deal. I like it because I can drop some knowledge in things.
Drop it.
This movie, I came to it early 2000s. I think Blue Underground put out a DVD of it, and it had been kind of lost before that happened, or in between VHS days and the DVD release. And And I don't know. I think I might have read something about Tarantino saying it was one of his favorite spaghetti westerns or whatever, right? I don't know exactly.
Yeah, that sounds like something that Tarantino.
This is a Tarantino film through and through.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
100%.
We'll talk about some of those hallmarks there, that he picks up in his filmography, but he literally named a movie Django Unchained. So it's like, this is a movie he loves. But this was way before he made that movie. But I watched it. And, I had been probably like you at that point, Jeff, where Sergio Leone was really the only spaghetti Western director that I knew of. In fact, I probably really, in a lot of ways, just thought that was it. Like, Sergio Leone, he's the only one that made spaghetti Westerns. I had no idea the vastness of this genre. And before even Sergio Leone, I kind of grew up on the old John Wayne Westerns that my dad loved, some of the old John Ford stuff. And so the thing that kind of changed my whole view of Westerns was Once Upon a Time in the West. Still forever will be my favorite Western. Mm-hmm. But that was like, oh, what is this? Like, this is so strange. It feels like a Western, but it's not quite a Western, right? It's got this foreign sort of Euro tint to it. There's dubbed language. It's the first movie I saw in widescreen, right? I think I probably talked about this when we did Leone. But when I saw Django, I was kind of like blown away by how different the violence was and how bleak the movie is. It was a Western like I'd never seen before. Even The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I think I like the Leone Dollars trilogy the best still, with Once Upon a Time in the West. But after Sergio Leone, it is without a doubt that my favorite Italian Western director is Sergio Corbucci. His movies, starting with Django, are bleak, dark. They're anti-heroes. His heroes are usually like crippled in some way and have to find a way to save the day. They're usually either dead or maimed at the end of them, right? He drags his characters through the mud, but they all have like this catharsis that you do go along with, right? There's usually like Yojimbo. There's warring factions. This has that as well.
This is directly inspired or directly based on Yojimbo.
Yeah, it definitely has the Yojimbo flavorings. This wasn't actually Corbucci's first attempt at Yojimbo. That would have been Minnesota Clay, which starred your favorite guy, Cameron Mitchell.
Oh, nice.
He was horribly miscast in that because he was kind of
thing.
He was kind of older. He wasn't really like who you would want as the hero, but but that movie has some flashes of brilliance. This would have been Corbucci's fourth Western, and really the first time he got it right. It was like everything he'd done before this, Western-wise, was kind of leading to this moment.
Was The Great Silence right after this?
The Great Silence was...
Or near it, anyway?
It was close. He would have done... He did Johnny Oro the same year. I think he actually shot Johnny Oro first, and that's not a very good movie. But Navajo Joe with Burt Reynolds was next.
Nice.
That's a pretty fun movie. The Hellbenders, which is okay. Then one of my favorites, The Mercenary, because he teams back up with Franco Nero for that one, and that's just a real fun movie. Like Franco Nero's playing like a real kind of likable, kind of loose cannon, but fun-loving guy, right? And it kind of has a similar plot to Django, where he's running guns and he's helping out the Mexican revolutionaries, but he's sort of, like playing both sides too. Got that Jimbo kind of vibe to it. But then it was The Great Silence, and The Great Silence is Corbucci's masterpiece. I mean, hands down, his masterpiece. Jeff, if you're gonna watch another spaghetti western after this, like your next one should be The Great Silence.
It's awesome.
All this is to say that I am a massive fan of Sergio Corbucci, and I do kind of want to paraphrase Tarantino, because there was a Corbucci documentary that was on Netflix a few years ago, and Tarantino had a good quote about Corbucci in it. He said, if you're going to go along with the conventional wisdom that John Ford is the greatest American Western director, which is debatable, but if you're going to go along with that, if you're going to go in and see, who's going to be number two, who could be the number two? Is it John Huston? Is it Sam Peckinpah? Is it
Clint Eastwood?
Clint Eastwood, right? Any number of guys could be Howard Hawks, right? Any number of guys could be number two. In Italy, there's no fucking question who is number two. In hundreds, thousands of spaghetti westerns, Sergio Corbucci is number two. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So there you go. That's your lead-in to Django. If you have never seen this movie, go watch it and come back. Let's talk about the movie.
All right, Chuck.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Is it my turn to talk? I thought you were just going to play the laugh track of me.
Next time, Chuck.
Next time. So, yeah, I guess I chose this movie because I watched it a few years ago and I was vastly blown away by it, because it is. I also, if you call something a spaghetti western, it seems like it's putting everything on a plate, right? Or in a bucket. I was trying to make a joke there.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Put some Parmesan on it. Yeah. But
it's the all-you-can-eat, the spaghetti bonanza there at the Italian Garden.
Well, unless you're thinking about Leone in a lot of ways, especially for someone uninitiated, you think spaghetti western, you think, oh, it's going to be poor quality. It's going to be, it's like something I've seen before. It's going to be exploitation, right? And there are a lot of them. There was a lot of those, but there are quite a few diamonds in the rough. And yeah, so again, sorry to interrupt you, Chuck. You're fine. This.
I know you love this movie, so I'm
happy.
I'm
getting amped up.
I'm happy to listen to you talk about it. Most of this movie is intrigue.
Yeah.
You don't really know what's happening, so it's hard to discuss the movie without telling everyone everything, if that makes sense. What you learn later is important to what's happening now. But you have a stranger, Django, who is dragging a muddy coffin through the desert. Group of Mexican revolutionaries, who are tying a woman to a bridge so they can whip her. Right?
Yep.
But thankfully, a bunch of heroes show up to save her. Right? Six guys.
I don't know if anybody who's ever wearing a hood, I don't know if they're heroes.
I couldn't really see the hood on the hill. Obviously, I know
fair enough.
Yeah, obviously I know they're not the heroes, but it is kind of played against you a little bit. You see Django on the hill, and you're like, oh, he's going to go down there and take care of this.
But no, he's just kind of hanging back.
Yeah,
and then you see the other guys come out. And it's like, oh, maybe they'll take care of it.
Yeah, they're rescuing her. Nope, they're mad at her too, because she escaped them to go to the Mexicans, and burning on a cross is far preferable than being tortured to death. Yeah. Is what they say.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's their logic.
It should also be. It should also be noted. I think it's kind of interesting only in one regard. When it comes to the face off between the two, the two main, the protagonist and the antagonist. Django is wearing the remnants of a Union officer's uniform from the Civil War.
Yes.
It's important because the guys who come up over the hill work for a former Confederate, higher up,
he's a major
yeah.
Jackson.
Yeah, and they represent or are part of the KKK, right?
Yeah, they don't come right out and say they're part
I
of the
think the
clan,
hoods
but that's
are, yeah,
that's the
that's the vibe.
insinuation. Yeah, I mean they're southern soldiers
They hate the
following.
Mexicans.
They hate
Yes.
the Mexicans. They're crucifying a woman who has left them to go to the Mexicans because she's essentially unclean to them now, right?
Yeah, it's
Oof.
kind of, it's in a way, it's I mean, I guess it's somewhat similar to people who just cruise the border these days, right? Looking for trouble,
Well,
Dang.
right?
they're not quite there yet, but I know what you're insinuating because there is a scene later that is pretty shocking. That is strangely rooted in actual history as
Really?
well. Uh-huh. But yes, they Django stands by while Maria is whipped. But as soon as I love it because you hear one gunshot, but in like stereo, and all the Mexicans don't go down, and then you think it's Django. You're
Right.
like, oh yeah, Django just like our hero
Save the day. Yeah.
saved the day. Which I want to mention that our introduction to Django, that shot of him walking away from the camera, starting in the foreground and walking away from camera, is Yojimbo. If you didn't already know that this is kind of a Yojimbo riff, the same opening shot. But he's still standing by, and that's like you said, the clan has come. They're gonna string her up, and that's where he's had enough. And he confronts them. And
Yeah,
they make a joke about him in his coffin. It's like, oh, you brought your burial suit.
Yeah, yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, don't fuck with a guy who's dragging a coffin behind him.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, that's the moral of the story,
yeah,
right? I mean,
kinda.
that's all I picked up from it.
I mean, yeah. If you just don't, if you want to avoid any kind of conflict, definitely avoid
Don't-
the guy who
With
dragging
the
a coffin.
fucking coffin behind him. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But anyway, yeah, and when he leaves it in the middle of your bar to go to sleep, and he says, "Don't touch my coffin," do not touch his coffin. Anyway,
I love, and I know I'm getting a little bit ahead, but the mystery of the coffin is so great.
but it's all the help he needs right there with him.
Well,
I've
yeah,
got
because
all the help I need.
so first time we're gonna get there, but first time watching this movie, it almost looks like a Jesus Christ, my Savior kind of situation, where there's something more mystical in the coffin or traveling with him than what truly is, which is wild. Like it read that way to me, like as kind of a mystical thing rather than what it was.
I knew what was in the coffin because I know enough about Django. I knew what was coming. But I will say though that one of the things about one of the things that I did kind of like about that opening with Django, initially, it does seem as though he is willing to not get involved. So like, he doesn't save Maria from being whipped because he's like, that's not me to say what's going on, right? It's like he stays back in that regard. Now, and that obviously says something about him that can be good, bad, and neutral. Which is one of the lesser spaghetti westerns, the good, bad, and the neutral.
Yes.
But but when her life is 100% on the line,
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
because he could sit back and say, I don't know why she's being whipped. It's not for me to get involved. She will survive that. But when the other people come and it's like, we're going to burn you alive on a cross because that will surely not hurt as bad as being whipped. He's like, yeah, fuck that. Nobody's going to die on my watch. Now, maybe he also kind of knows who these people are for, work for. And maybe he's already a little bit like, fuck those guys. I wondered that too, because I don't think he is I'm not entirely sure that he is ignorant to who Major Jackson is.
Oh, definitely not. And that's the thing you don't know yet, right?
You don't know that yet, but when you piece that together, I thought back and I was like, oh no, he was going to fuck those guys up anyway, probably.
No question. Yep.
I mean, he does fuck some of Major Jackson's guys up real bad.
So many guys, but yes, he takes out the 5 of them there right then and there with 5 shots almost simultaneously. He takes out.
He just moseys on down with his coffin and his 6-shooter.
Yep.
Yeah. And he just kind of comes up on them and they're like, oh, what are you here for? You know, basically. And he's like, well, I'm going to fuck you guys up. So it's like you do see a little bit of who Django is and what Django is, because he isn't gonna get involved in a squabble that might lead to somebody being whipped or punished or whatever, but he is not going to let anybody die.
Right.
If it is seemingly what's the word, unjustified.
And he says it. He says, as long as you are with me, you will never have to fear for your life, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, it's like he is almost drawn to people, right? Like where we always talk about, like when we talked about the man who has no name, right? It always seems like he likes to stay as lone as possible, right? I get the impression from Django, he's going to carry a lot of weight, and I'm not just talking about his coffin. He carries emotional weight where he doesn't necessarily want people around, but if people are around, he can be very warm to them. And you know, like, I think he has no problem. I mean, maybe he doesn't really want, is it Maria? Maria's her name, right?
Yeah, Maria.
I don't think he necessarily wants Maria as a girlfriend, but I think he is more than happy if she's around most of the time. And he certainly is a big fan of Nathaniel. He works with Nathaniel on a lot of things.
Is he a big fan of Nathaniel?
Well, I don't know if he's a big fan of Nathaniel, but I think he is.
Nathaniel's a means to an end for him.
Sure, but
he shoots up all of his liquor. That's so sad.
That's true.
That's why I always drink all the liquor in my house as fast as possible. So Django doesn't come over
and do a gun demonstration. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, what he pulls out is a fucking howitzer, I think. Whatever that is, that thing is
big old machine gun.
It's like a Gatling gun.
You should not be holding it with your hands. That's what I'm getting at. It should be on a tripod, you know? Or those 2 big wheels like King.
He looks like what's his name from Predator when he's holding it. Yeah.
Yes.
Jesse
Ventura.
Yeah, and the other guy,
Carl Weathers.
Can't I think of his name?
You're thinking of the Mexican guy, right? Is he the other guy who has the?
No, it's oh, god damn it.
Anyway, but no, I kind of feel like Django is okay with a little bit of help. He doesn't mind a little bit of help from his quote unquote friends. Whereas the man with no name, I think, tends to like try to be as lone as possible.
Yeah, he's not quite as manipulative. He's just very matter of fact. And in fact, he's not even really trying to play both sides. When we find out, really, he just wants his cut and he wants to go.
He wants to get the fuck out of there.
He wants to leave, yeah.
Well, he wants
I'm thinking of Bill Duke.
Oh, yeah, Bill Duke. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he obviously, I mean, like, because he also talks about like he does have some penance that he wants to pay, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing with Django, and that's, I think, why he's carrying his own coffin. Basically, it's the as the Beatles would say, he's going to carry that weight.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to bury the past, literally, and
he wants to put Django in that coffin.
Yeah, he says he's already there. He says he's already there. Yeah,
yeah,
yep, yeah. He considers himself like The Walking Dead, right? With no real future, no real hope. He just has to make one thing right. Which makes the thing interesting about him in the gold, right? I think he's torn between, do I have a future or do I not? Right? What do I do with this guilt, with this weight that I hold? He almost doesn't even want to enact revenge until he really has no other choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. Maria can put up a pretty good argument as far as is there a future here?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I would take that option.
Yes. Me too.
It would help to know, and maybe this would lessen the movie though. Like
Sure.
we know who died, but not really a whole lot about them and how it happened.
Yeah.
And why he feels this penance. Because being away to fight for the North obviously was a choice of his because he's from the South, right? So maybe he blames himself for that. But there isn't a whole lot there for you to be like, okay, I understand his motivations for dragging himself through the mud, quite literally, in that coffin.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Dragging himself through the mud. You're right. You're right. And that's where I think the movie is, like you said, maybe it would lessen some of the movie, and maybe if you drag it down with too much subplot, which was actually a Corbucci problem in some of his earlier films. He was kind of explaining too much and introducing too much subplot to the point where it was kind of getting away from what made the movie tense and fun,
right?
Quite frankly, right? But yeah, it would be nice to know maybe a little bit more about that. But also, you kind of want him to be a mystery as well.
Absolutely.
And he is that for sure. You never really quite know what his motivations are, and really throughout the whole movie.
No, you don't. And that's what made the reveal of the gun so awesome, is that it was so enigmatic that I thought it was like a deeper kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he just pulls out the gun and you're like, oh shit.
That's the best moment. So we got to set this up for the listeners. So he goes back to the town. He brings Maria, and I don't think he really even knows that Maria was from that exact brothel, but it's basically like he's just returning her back to the place she escaped from, which sucks for her, but she's alive. And he tells one of the other prostitutes to give her a room. We can't really say no to Django. She hands over a key, and she goes up to the room to rest. And at that point, Django's kind of getting the feel for what this place is. He understands from Nathaniel that there is a Major Jackson who runs with a gang that wear red hoods that hate the Mexicans, who are basically, they're kind of in between places. They're trying to win the Mexican Revolution, essentially, and they've escaped Mexico to essentially, I think, maybe get supplies and kind of regroup, reform. They've sort of retreated to this place, and Major Jackson and his gang don't want him there, so they're sort of stuck between Major Jackson and Mexico, where things are bad for them as well. But they both of these groups use this saloon as kind of a neutral ground. They drink there. They visit the women, if you will. But also Nathaniel, the head of the bar, has to pay Major Jackson protection money to even be allowed to exist. Which brings up a question I always have when I watch this movie: is how does Nathaniel make any money? Right? Because
his girl's pleasure phantoms. That's how.
Yeah, right. That's a good line. And he's kind of like right. Like, why are you even still here? Right. Like, what is it there for? You're paying one group protection money. So are you just paying them back what they spend, or do they get everything for free? And is the only money you're actually bringing in from the Mexicans, who can't harm you because you're paying Major Jackson for protection? It's a very complicated situation for Nathaniel. But that's whatever. Nathaniel tells him, hey, look, Major Jackson's coming. You need to get out of here. You know, he's not going to like what you've done. He's not going to like, that Maria's here. But he shows up. Oh, no, but there's a whole scene that we cut to before the thing happens? Who wants to talk about the Mexican pen? Anybody?
Oh yeah, Major Jackson is basically skeet shooting Mexicans.
Yep. This is where we meet Major Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a bunch of people in a pen, one at a time. He has them tapped, and they are essentially, I guess, allowed to run away if they can make it. But
Yeah.
Major Jackson's a sharpshooter, and he picks them off every time. One of them gets really far up the hill, and he still is able to shoot him. So establishing the Major Jackson is a hell of a shot.
Good shot. Yeah.
And he's a bad
Also
guy.
a sadistic fuck. Yep.
Yeah, he's a sadistic fuck. And I like when he hands it off to his friend who has the scar on his cheek.
Ringo.
Ringo, yeah.
Did you guys notice there's a lot of like tombstone-y kind of stuff in this movie.
Well, Ringo is a classic Italian Western name. Ringo is usually a hero in Italian Westerns, but yeah, Ringo would be a name that would be recycled countless times.
But sashes,
Yeah.
like that are red hoods,
Yeah.
and like there's a few other examples that I'm not really thinking of right
Yeah,
now.
I like
but
that.
yeah, there is some tombstone-y stuff in this.
Mm-hmm.
But when he gives it to Ringo shoots the guy before he even gets out of the pen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's our Giulio from last week.
Yes, totally. And then brother, I can't remember his name. He's like the preacher or the priest in the town.
Yes.
He runs to tell Jackson that there's a stranger in town that he should
Brother
to
Jonathan.
meet. Brother
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Right, because he shows up when Django is there when he first arrives to collect the money.
Yeah, and Django
he-
spits the cork in his face.
Yes,
It was awesome.
and he antagonizes him because he knows. He's like, "Yeah, go tell Major Jackson I'm here."
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is what I want.
yeah,
This is what I'm here for. So yeah, Major Jackson brings his group into this.
he brings the ones he's with. I think there's
like
six of them plus him. Yes, I
Yeah.
think that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah. So they
plus Major Jackson. Yeah,
plus Major Jackson. The girl's like kind of hiding upstairs. But she comes down on the stairs and watches the action. How exactly does this go down? I know how it ends.
Well, basically, Major Jackson's just like, he confronts him and he's like, who are you? What are you doing here? And he's interrupting Django's game of solitaire is what he's doing.
Yes.
Right. And Django's just kind of picking a fight. Right. He just wants to antagonize and really he wants them to draw. And they do. And he shoots every motherfucker in the room. Except
He shoots the gun out of Jackson's hands, and then he shoots everyone else. And the shot behind his back.
when he gets
the guy-
Ringo.
Yeah.
He
It's
gets
so
Ringo with
good.
the behind the back shot. It's awesome.
So good.
That to me is like a really bold choice too, to set up a really, really wild villain in Ringo and then immediately kill him. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that is such an interesting choice, and it really sets Django up as the ultimate fucking badass. Like, you do not mess with this guy. He just took down who I thought was probably the craziest person in this area in a snap behind his back.
Yeah.
Well, what I thought was even a bigger, like, not a bigger, but like what I also thought was an interesting thing is what happens the next day. And I thought, oh wow, I guess we're done with this storyline. I thought we were going to move into almost like a 3-part almost anthology type of story, right?
Like standoff or something.
Well,
like the whole movie would be like in
No,
the town.
Well, at the moment, the next day, Steph was like, "Oh, that was a good movie."
right?
When it-
Yeah.
Like 30 minutes in, you're like, "Okay, so the main bad guy is basically
completely-
neutered."
Yeah.
Well. First, though, he says, "How many men do you have? How many more men do you have?" He's like, "I have 48." He's like, "Well, bring them back tomorrow.
Yeah, I love it.
I'll be waiting." Right?
Yeah, and Nathaniel's like, "What are you doing? What's this?"
Right.
It's like, "Well, I've got all the help I need."
Right. And that's what we're thinking. It's like, what is he doing? Like,
Yeah.
what is going to happen here? Like, how can you take on 48 guys, right?
Well,
He has Jesus on his side. That's what I'm thinking at this point, because that coffin never not wet, even though it's been sitting.
Just caked in mud. Yeah.
oh my God, the town is so muddy.
Yeah.
Guys.
They wanted to do snow, but it wasn't the right time of year. So they did mud.
The town is so muddy. It's muddy.
You don't see many movies with that much mud. You really don't. Like, that must have been miserable to shoot in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I bet there were so many shoes lost in that. Like, mud.
Yeah, you're just walking along and your boots are.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's gone like the quicksand under the bridge.
yeah, exactly. So I do like that there is use for that mud a little bit later.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Get yourself some mud wrestling going on.
Yeah.
At which point I think I wrote in my notes that this movie has everything. Let me see here.
Prostitute mud wrestling. It definitely does.
Yeah, here we go. This movie has it all. Ellipses. Killing and prostitutes mud wrestling! Exclamation point.
That is all. That's everything.
That is everything.
That is everything.
It's everything. It's there. It's there. But no, so he so yeah, he tells the majors, like, bring your guys, bring them all back. You know, I'll be waiting. And which my notes, he positions himself behind a log.
Yeah, it's by a big tree that's fallen, a big dead tree that's just fallen in this town. It's God, like the set design of that is just wonderful. Like, this town is truly just dead, right?
Yeah.
And we've got dead trees in the mud in the middle of the town, right?
Right. And so in my notes, because it's like, well, I've got all the help I need. Everybody go hide. I got this. It's like, okay. And then he opens up the coffin and he pulls out that fucking cannon. And I was like, that's a big gun, Django. Holy shit, is exactly what I have in my notes here. That's a big gun, Django. And guess what he does? Fucking wipes almost everybody out.
Mows them down. Mows them down. He goes all Bill Duke on them. Yep.
Yeah, like 5 minutes. And I thought at this point, it's like, okay, well, I guess there goes that guy. We'll wait until the Mexicans come to town,
right?
And that'll be the next story, right?
Right.
And in a way, it is kind of structured that way, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
but but I think, well, that guy, well, we're not going to have to worry about him anymore. I also like the Django kills him and Nathaniel buries him.
Yeah. It's like it's better to be digging the graves up on this part than being the one underneath or something like that. Yeah. I like how that scene is structured, because they're all coming in slowly, trickling in the main part of town. Like, nobody thinks to come around the back. They're all coming around the main part of town, like slinking in through the sides a little bit, and you see the whole street get filled with Major Jackson's men, and they're getting closer and they're getting closer. It's like he's just drawing them in. He waits until the last moment to pull that fucking massive gun out and just mow them down.
Yeah.
Yep.
In a way, you know what it kind of made me think? I always think about this when I think about like these kind of showdowns in towns like this. You guys ever played the Nintendo game Gunsmoke?
I remember it. I remember it.
I fucking love that game. And it's hard too, though, but it's like a fun hard. But like, you get people coming out of fucking everywhere, and you're just mowing them all down. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking play that and call myself Django.
Yeah, there's a scene in Red Dead Redemption 2 that is basically this.
Yep.
With the Gatling gun. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so he takes everybody out. And and like I said,
but he lets Major Jackson live, and brother
with
Nathaniel.
A couple of guys. I think there's a few guys that he's like, go ahead and
Yep.
offers them the chance to leave. And then so then Nathaniel buries him, and we find out it's like, oh, Django's wife is buried here. So he's like from this area.
Yeah.
It's like he's just been circling around with his coffin, just waiting. Waiting.
It's like he maybe lived in that town, Like
Yeah,
that
it's
town
like-
that's dead and moved on.
Yeah, he comes to. You know what it makes me think of actually, and this is a nice little another callback. I had one last week. Got another one to Simple Plan. It's almost like he's circling like one of those crows, waiting to strike, particularly on Major Jackson. But he's got other plans as well.
Yeah.
But like he's just been kind of waiting for his chance to mow everybody fucking out.
Yep. Well,
Also, another note that I have here, I mean, this is obviously way later, but another note I have is death toll in this movie is out of control.
oh God, it's great. Yeah. Yes. Corbucci had no problem in his movies just massacring hundreds of people.
I bet part of your audition for one of his movies was how good can you die?
How good can you die?
I thought Jason auditioned for a Corbucci movie. I was like, wait a minute.
I know. That's what I was like. What? When did I do that?
Well, can you grab your stomach or chest and go and then fall down? You're in. You know?
You run away and act like you got shot.
Yeah.
Oh, like the freeze, like the back shot, the back shot. Yeah. Well, after this happens, the Nathaniel and the prostitutes aren't really too happy about it. They're like, you just killed half our customers. There's really no reason for us to stay anymore. You should leave too.
Yeah, Brother Jonathan comes out.
Brother Jonathan comes out. He's like, Django is screwing everything up. We had
Marie. He's blaming it on the woman.
Well, yes, that's true. If it weren't for her and Django, yeah. So they try to attack Marie. There's this whole like tussle in the mud. Maria, thank you. Yeah, they wrestle in the mud, which is one of Jeff's like only things in the world that is in this movie.
Well, yeah, this movie has it all: killing and prostitutes mud wrestling! Exclamation point!
Right.
That is a note.
It's a circle,
important.
And the Venn diagrams perfectly overlap.
One circle. Yeah.
Yep.
Steph was like, usually you have to pay for this to watch this.
Nope, this is great. This is great. This is perfect.
So
I didn't pay for this. I watched it on Tubi.
Even the most tenuous peace in this town has been disrupted, right? Like the prostitutes are fighting themselves in the mud.
That is one thing that Nathaniel did say when he came in the town. It's like we it's like basically the whorehouse in town is the place where one day one side comes in, they move on. The next day the other side comes in, they move on, and never do they mix.
Right.
But it's peaceful and they please everyone.
Right. So
but Django doesn't like that.
well, he's
he's
got bigger plans.
Yeah.
He's got bigger plans. And at this point, the Mexican revolutionaries come into town, and it just so happens that Brother Jonathan is still there, and he tries to escape badly, and he's trying to like juke him a little bit, but no, of course they're way outnumbered, and they get a little Tarantino on his ear in this scene.
Oh yeah, cut his ear off.
They cut his ear off and feed it to him.
Oh
yeah, but the
only thing that was missing was a little bit of dancing and a little bit of Steelers wheel.
Right, exactly. And then it looks like they're going to let him go, but no, they end up shooting him in the back. He's dead. So Brother Jonathan is gone, and at this point too, Django is up at the cemetery with Nathaniel, and they come up to the cemetery, and one of the Mexicans hits Django in the face with the butt of his rifle. Django just kind of takes it. You get the feeling like Django could probably take these guys out, but we don't know what Django knows. They take him to Hugo, right? Is his name?
Yeah, Hugo.
General
Last
Hugo?
week was Ugo. Now we have Hugo.
Yes. And I believe they call him a general. And this is just Hugo gang member, I think is what he's casted.
No, it's...
pretty sure they call him General.
General Hugo Rodriguez.
There we go.
Jose Baldalo.
Oh, Hugo, yes. I'm looking at someone else. Yes. And then that's when we get that great moment. This is kind of a tropey thing, but Django and General Hugo know each other. And General Hugo is actually happy to see Django, and he embraces him, and he thanks him again for saving his life in prison that time. Right, which you never get that full story there, but that's interesting. Like, were they in prison together?
This is our Snake Plissken. Like everybody, like
Totally.
some people know this guy, and that's not a story for now. Don't worry.
Right. Yeah. I thought he'd be taller.
100% Snake Plissken is John Carpenter's Django, right?
Yes.
I mean, like,
for sure.
Yeah, okay,
for sure. But we find out, they're chummy, and I love it when he asks the guy who hit him with his rifle. He asks him for his gun. He hands it to him, and then he immediately hits him with the butt of his own rifle. It's like, man, that is just a shit. Like, that transgression cannot pass, right? Oh man, so good. Like, it immediately regains all of his stature that might have been even slightly diminished. It's good stuff. But then don't they get in a fight right after that? Is that when they get in a fight?
No, well, Django. No, this is later.
That's a little later. It's
later because it's after the heist.
Yeah.
This is a heist movie too. This movie's got everything.
That's where we're going. Yeah, we're getting to the heist. So he's talking to General Hugo, and he's kind of like, well, I might have a solution to your revolution problem,
because they're running out of funding for the revolution. That's the one thing everybody forgets. Revolutions
cost money, dinero.
Yep.
He's like, I might have a twofold solution. Well, first he tells them about the guns, and he shows them the big honking machine gun, and he demonstrates it on poor Nathaniel's liquor.
Booze.
Which, guys, you could have drank that booze. Like, those aren't empty bottles. Right? Take the gun outside.
Chuck's drinking that booze.
Take the gun outside. Like, shoot up the side of a building.
Of an empty building, yeah.
Yeah, shoot some windows out. Anyway, they're like, whoa, what is this thing? We could win the revolution with guns like this. It's like, well, I know where you can buy 9 more. And I forget which.
Yeah, because
Pecos, I think.
He's got one. The guy he bought it from had 10.
Yeah.
So there's 9 more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we
if
can't
that's
afford.
true.
If it's true. Yeah.
If it's true. I don't really have any reason to not believe Django here.
I kind of believe him too.
But it's never his plan to take him to get the guns, though.
No, it's to go get the gold.
Well, he told him where the guns are. He just wants his share, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was
the key. Because the whole thing, we're all roads lead to, we got to get the money for the guns. I want to cut, but you'll have enough to buy the rest of them. And then we part ways, basically.
Right. And I have no reason to disbelieve Django.
Except for he takes all the money.
Well, he does, because I think he's mad. I think he's like, well, fuck that motherfucker, right? He's a little bit vindictive.
Well, yeah, don't mess with this guy. I mean, he shot a guy behind his back.
He smells a double cross. So he's gonna triple cross before the double cross. Anyway, we'll get there. We gotta talk about what the plan is here. The plan is that they're gonna go to Fort somewhere where Major Jackson,
an army.
Major Jackson and some of the, I guess, remnants of the Confederacy or someone are there.
Yeah, it's like the first order. It's the remnants of the empire are still there.
Yeah, because it's not his Klansmen. It's actual
they're actual army.
like federal or army officers. Yeah, that he's somehow affiliated with. It's kind of confusing. But
is it possible that they may be Texan army or like the?
It's a Mexican army. It's the Mexican army.
Oh yes.
That's what it is, and they can't come. They can't come into the United States because they escape back to the United States.
Gotcha. Yeah,
it's the Mexican army,
right? And when it comes to the revolutionaries,
because that's who the revolutionaries are fighting against anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Yeah.
So for some reason, Major Jackson it's weird. He's like exchanging his gold bullion with the Mexican army. So it's kind of like he has to kind of do deals with them for his gold or something like that.
Well, it seems to me it's like, okay, so I think Django knows where the firepower for the revolution is. Hugo has an idea of where to fund it. And then that just meets together.
No, Django does both of them.
No, Django has had both pieces of that.
Oh, did he?
He's like Major Jackson takes his gold to Fort Chariba, and we're going to steal that gold.
Yeah. Gotcha. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's basically selling gold that he's stealing it, maybe he's mining it, probably stealing it.
He stole it during the war, and he can't sell it in America because he would get prosecuted or whatever.
It's Confederate. Right. Yeah, it's Confederate. You can't.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, and he knows he can sell it to the Mexicans and launder it, basically. Yeah.
That's it's kind of like Nazi gold, right?
Yeah.
You got it. You can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Because it's against international law to do anything with stolen Nazi gold. Yeah.
Here I am stuck with all this Nazi gold. What am I going to do with it? I don't know what I'm talking about. Just ignore me.
I like that.
Somehow Django knows all this. Somehow Django knows all this, right? Like, we don't know how, but he knows. And again, it kind of goes back to the mystery of, what happened between Major Jackson and his wife or girlfriend or lover, right?
Right.
But somehow he's very hip to whatever's going on with the Major Jackson. So they concoct a plan to steal the gold, and it's a pretty good one. It's the old Trojan horse trick. They've been doing it for centuries.
Nathaniel's bringing the women's.
Yeah, Nathaniel's going to bring the prostitutes to the fort like he does every Tuesday or Thursday.
It's just a Tuesday. Yeah.
And they get so excited.
Oh my
God. When he comes in. Oh, Nathaniel's bringing the women.
It's the most disarmed they would really be, too. Totally. It's like brilliant. It's a brilliant plan.
Oh yeah, they immediately are getting boners and yeah.
What's the thing from Full Metal Jacket? The whole thing about this is my weapon, this is my gun. This one's for shooting, this one's for fun. Well, they've dropped their weapons.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It's all shooting for fun.
They've got their fun weapons out. Yeah. And of course, there are no women in that wagon. It is Django and the Mexican revolutionaries with a big old gun.
And boy, they start mowing people down.
Mowing them down. I would pretty much take out everyone on the fort except for, I think I counted the posse at the end was like maybe 9 guys plus the major.
Yeah.
And there's at least 150 people that die in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
At least. Yeah.
Has to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's glorious.
It's great. That scene's so much fun. And they're like packing up all the gold, and the General Hugo is so excited. He's like looking at the cash, and Django's like, fuck the cash, we're taking the gold. And a big old sack of gold. And they're in the wagon, and they're the Mexican army is in hot pursuit, and it looks like they might catch up because the gun is jamming, but they get to the American border and they cross it.
Pass. Yeah.
And the Mexican army won't cross the border. So Major Jackson's like, drats,
Drats.
He's not gonna chase after him alone.
They're like, sorry, Jackson. Ooh. This is the border.
Django.
I have nothing to add, so I'm just gonna sing this episode.
That's fine. That's quite all right. So now like Django's like, I want my cut, and I want to get the fuck out of here.
He just wants his share at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me my share. Get out of my way. Keep the gun. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, I want out.
He's kind of at this is a point in the movie where I think he's imagining the possibility of another life, right?
But he's got to get far enough away to where he can have that life.
Right.
Because
And he's not even thinking about killing Major Jackson. He's like, I've fucked over Major Jackson. He's got his gang is gone, his money is gone. He's got nothing.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, I don't even need to put the third nail in that coffin. I just want my money and I want to go. I want to live in peace. Right?
What he wants to do is he wants to put that gold in his coffin.
Well, he's gonna.
Oh boy.
Because General Hugo is playing games.
It's a brilliant plan, man. It's a brilliant plan that he uses here when he's like, so Hugo, is like, yeah, well, you can take her as a gift. Well, I guess he saves his life first, right? The one guy.
They have. That's right. Because how does that come about?
So one of Hugo's guys starts getting fresh with Maria.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And Django doesn't like it. And they get to a fight. And then
Well, no. Hugo doesn't like it, and the guy pulls a gun on Hugo.
Yes.
And Django kicks the gun out of his hands, and then they fight. And that's why he says, "You saved my life" for a second time.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
And
that's great, because he a guy backs into a pickaxe. There's a pickaxe sticking out of his spine.
Yeah. And then after the whole thing, like Maria's like, "Ooh, my girly bits are kind of buzzing," and he's like, "No, you instead." But it's all a thing. It's all
it's a ruse.
It's a
they
ruse.
bait and switch you a lot in this movie, and I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, because it's a bait and switch that doesn't betray what the characters or what the situation would be, right?
Yeah, you're like, why is he being an asshole? And then you realize why he's being an asshole.
Mean to Maria? Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, he's saving her the indignity of stripping in front of the guards that are guarding the gold so he can do his bullshit, which is awesome.
And he's still going to have his chance to save her. It's like everything is going to be fine.
But now, she
doesn't know that.
He's going to
I don't know if he's going to save her necessarily.
Well, he does in the end. I mean,
well, because that's where she becomes awesome. So, all right, let's talk it out.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He has the Mexican prostitute strip in the window to distract the Mexican guards outside. He's like, just keep taking her clothes off. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Just keep undressing, right? And so outside, the Mexican guards like, oh yeah, like they're into it.
She's hot.
Yeah. Boing, boing. I need that sound effects board.
Yeah. Chuck's here.
I love your version of your sound effects board laugh. Yeah. That's so great.
You almost sound like the thing that's in the Joker's breast pocket when he falls off the building.
Oh God. So what does he do? He gets his coffin and he gets up onto the roof.
It's almost like a video game level. Like, could you imagine playing this? Like dragging the coffin through the specific areas. Sorry, go ahead.
And he's trying to be super quiet, right? And he's also like actually dragging this coffin. Like, I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure it wasn't as heavy as it looked, but it still looks pretty heavy, right?
It's probably 60 to 80 pounds. I would guess.
And then he's got to lower it.
Right. He gets up on the roof. He's got to lower it into that little room. It's almost like where they would store the coal. Yeah, I think it's like where they would store the coal or something. And he's got to go. He lowers it down the chimney of that coal chute room, and he goes down it, and that's where the gold is. And he puts all the gold,
scoops it all up,
dumps it all into the coffin, which is kind of weird. Like, why didn't he just leave it in the bag? He like dumps the bag into the coffin, but whatever.
No.
Hugo dumped the bag.
Oh, that's right.
He dumped it onto the ground.
That's right.
And he's
he's got to scoop it out.
And then we got and
which is actually pretty smart because it makes it more difficult to steal. Yeah.
We have to discuss.
By the way, that amount of gold, even in nugget form like that, is fucking heavy.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's worth a lot of money too.
Yeah.
Like so much money. Go ahead, Chuck.
Do you really think he's been so calculated to this point?
Yep.
Vindictively ruins his own chances of survival? Like, I feel like, because we talked about earlier how you think he was being honest about the guns and all that stuff. I feel like that was a story to get the general to go along with this plan so we could get the money. Why not just take what was yours so the general won't chase you?
I don't think he has any ill will towards the general in the first place. I think if the general had just given him what his share was, he would have gone peacefully. I think when the general starts playing games, he's thinking in his mind, he's not going to give me any of it.
Yeah,
he's going
to fuck me over.
He's going to kill me. He's going to fuck me over. Or I'm not going to get any of it.
Or it'll be a situation where
at that point, it doesn't matter if he takes one nugget or all the nuggets. right?
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know if Django thinks he's going to die. I think he thinks I'm going to wake up after a drunken bender with a whore next to me and none of Hugo's guys here and all the gold gone.
Yeah, they're already sending him off to a room with a prostitute.
Yep.
They want him.
I think just taking what was owed him would have been smarter, and maybe Hugo wouldn't have chased him for it.
You don't fuck with Django.
I don't know.
I mean, Django's willing to kill everyone.
No,
so I think
I mean, I think you imagine the worst case scenario in this situation,
and try to make it happen by taking all the gold.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Is like he could have just taken what was his. And maybe avoided the rest of what happens.
I don't think there was a way to leave quietly, though, right?
That's fair.
Because he had to blow the hole in the back of that room.
Sure.
And there were men, there were men outside of the door. So because they were guarding it. So I don't think there was a quiet way of doing this.
Sure. Okay. Continue. I'm sorry.
But it is a genius plan, though, because he sets up the gun to fire when the like on a string, right? Is that how he did it?
Yeah, he had a string tied to the dynamite. When the dynamite explodes, the string drops, the gun starts shooting. I don't know how the contraption actually works, but that's what happened.
But he had it set up to work simultaneously, and he takes the coffin of gold out the back of the little building that he blew a hole in, and the Gatling gun or whatever is shooting at the door. And the commotion and the loudness, the Mexican guards open up the door and they immediately get shot. And then it's almost comical. More of the revolutionaries come out into the line of fire and they get gunned down until they kind of get wise. But then they're not really sure what to do. It's like, what do we do, right? Because they don't know what's going on. Nobody thinks really until a little bit later to come around the back. But before that happens, Django's loading the gold into the wagon, and he hears a click of the gun. It's like, oh, shit. He's caught. It's Maria. She's like, you're taking me with you, Django.
Yeah.
He's like, well, fine, get in. Let's go.
Yeah, we got to go. Now, it's
funny. He doesn't deliberate it at all. It's hilarious.
You know what the great thing is her cocking that gun. It's Checkey's cock.
Checkey's cock?
Yeah, yes. She cocks the gun, so it has to shoot.
It has to shoot later.
Oh, I like it.
Checkey's cock. I like that too.
Because it's
Check-offs,
really
but nobody
Checkey's killed me. Yeah, that's what kind of threw me for a loop.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I'm a little inebriated right now.
You're all right.
No, but yeah, it's cocked, so it's gotta fire later. So it's like,
except for she fires it twice, but I'm with you. I still.
I mean, like it's.
But she's gonna use that gun with intent later. Yeah.
No, he's talking about the wagon later
when it falls over.
Oh yeah.
Because that shouldn't happen unless that's cocked.
It would have been better if she didn't shoot at those two guys and the gun was just cocked the whole time. But I get your point here.
It could be that she's firing, cocking, and it's like it's just.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I just wish she didn't shoot. It would have been like a perfect
Fair enough, but I mean, because they get away, and it's the next day. Now they get to the bridge where the movie began.
Yeah.
With quicksand.
There's quicksand nearby because one of Jackson's guys went into the quicksand earlier.
Yep.
And they get off of the wagon. And she's saying, I want you to take me I want to be with you. We can go and start a new life. And he's like, I don't know. And then the gun falls over.
Mm-hmm.
It fires. The horse gets startled. It doesn't take off running. It just moves enough to where it jostles the coffin into the quicksand. And Django tries going after it.
Yeah.
And it's lost.
And that's an interesting moment, I think, with his character, because
this kind of plays to what you were saying about does he think there's a few, because
Right.
if there wasn't, he would have been like,
Right. Right. If he were totally resigned to the finality of his life, right, then I don't think he would have gone into the quicksand to try to save the gold, right?
I semi disagree.
What do you think?
So his penance is that gold. Burying that gold with the box is what he intends to do, because Maria asks him to leave it with her. And he's like, no, I've got to bury it. So he doesn't plan on keeping the money anyways.
He's gonna bury it in quicksand. What's the difference?
He needed to bury it next to his wife, I think, in that town.
I thought.
But you don't need to cross the bridge to do that, though.
Yeah, I don't understand. I think the crossing the bridge is like,
now I've got to cross that bridge.
I think it's
he has a
literal.
whole thing. He has a whole thing about like another life.
Yeah,
I agree. I think he can live another life, but he has to bury his past first, and that money is a part of it. Is the way he said it.
I thought he was burying it so that he could get away and then come back later when the heat was off of him to get it, and then
maybe.
I thought that's what I was taking it as, is like, I need to bury it so that we can get out of here, because right now we can't. You know.
That's what Maria wants him to do. Maria wants him to leave the gold. He's like, the gold is nothing but trouble. Come with me. We'll go to another town, and we will live another life, right? But he won't do that.
It is semi-confusing because you can read it like all the ways we just read it. Like, I thought he was just going to bury it because that's what would allow him
freedom.
Yes.
Like he's paying off a debt.
It's his penance.
Like a soul debt. Yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, I think maybe all three of us are right.
Yeah.
Because it's Italian.
Yeah.
It could be like the Pulp Fiction suitcase.
Sure.
Right? Like,
sure.
Yeah. So anyway, continue.
Well, regardless of what their original intentions were, or his original intentions were,
Hugo catches up.
To him, shoots Maria on the bridge. She's wounded on the bridge as she's trying to save Django from the quicksand. Hugo's men throw a lasso around him and pull him out of the quicksand.
Hey, hooray, he's saved.
Hooray, they're saving people again.
The gold is gone, and Hugo says that. He's like, "Hey, I've saved your life just now." And then he said, "We don't in Mexico, we don't kill thieves. We teach them a lesson." Essentially, he's saving his life a second time, right?
Yeah.
So he's even.
So that they're even. But he has one of his men destroy his hands. It's kind of
brutal.
Fistful of Dollars, right? And isn't that what happens to Clint Eastwood in Fistful of Dollars? He gets his hand wounded. He can't fire
one of
the gun.
them. Yeah.
Well, this is multiple horses trampling his hands.
Yeah, I mean,
after he's been hit by a gun
he's
50
been
times.
It's been like the butt of the gun is like, I mean, they're hamburger hands. They're mangled. They're like.
But like 20 years later, he'll be back in a sequel.
Yeah.
He'll get him fixed.
I'll get him fixed.
Yeah, he's the Doctor Strange of the Western cinematic universe.
Nathaniel probably could have fixed
Chuck
him.
knows what I'm talking about.
I like it.
But they leave him. He even tells them, the gold is in the quicksand. Hugo kind of laughs about that. It's almost like,
how about that? Yeah.
He's like, well, we need to return to Mexico anyway. So they leave Django with his mangled hands. And it's like, hope I don't see Major Jackson on the way to Mexico, and tell him where to find you.
I'll tell him you said hi.
I tell him you said hi. Yeah. Well, all does not end well for General Hugo. His group of revolutionaries get ambushed at the Mexican border. By Major Jackson, who he seemed to have recruited some new men.
I think it's the Mexican army.
And the Mexican army is there too, but there are also men with his
a few
hoods, his scarves and everything. Yeah. But yeah, they've joined forces and they massacre Hugo's gang. And then at that point too, Django carries Maria with his mangled hands.
She's on his forearm. So
it's on his forearm. He carries her in. I know. It looks great. I mean, his hands are out, so like hamburger meat, but she's in his arms. Carries her to town, takes her to the saloon, puts
Nathaniel's
her on the couch.
Practically packed up.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
Yeah,
and Django almost like begs him to take a look at her and see if he can save her, and hide her, is what he says, because Major Jackson is on his way.
And tell Major Jackson I'm at the cemetery waiting for him.
Yes. So he does. He goes to the cemetery. Major Jackson shows up. Nathaniel tells him where he is, but that there's nothing really to worry about because both his hands are broken. And Major Jackson does probably what he's wanted to do for the entire movie.
Real quick, though, there is one really important thing, is that Django does say nothing can end as long as Jackson is basically still alive. He has to end it.
That's what he tells Maria. Yeah, because it's true. It's like at this point, she's not safe. He's not safe. And
Nathaniel has about 30 more seconds left in this movie.
Yes, and
that's how unsafe he is.
So Nathaniel dies, and Jackson takes his men to the cemetery to confront Django. But before Major Jackson gets there, it's well acted. Like Franco Nero had been in a ton of movies before this. This is clearly the movie that made him a star, but he had been in a few things. He's like struggling to figure out how to pick up the gun.
It's hard to watch.
Prop the gun. He's also trying to take the trigger guard off with his teeth. And he takes the trigger guard off with his teeth, so it'd be easier to shoot, right? So he doesn't need to stick a finger in. He can just use a flipper.
Jason's mimicking this for those of you who can only hear us, and it's kind of hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's also gross.
It's so gross. And it is hard to watch because you're like, how is this going to work? Right? How can he do this? It keeps falling down. He keeps picking it up. And then finally Major Jackson shows up with a couple of his men. And he asks him where his death suit
Where's
is.
your birthday suit?
It's still on me.
Ask him where his death suit is.
I want to see how long your taint is. Wait, that was last week, wasn't it? Sorry.
The cross we should mention too, that the grave marker cross that he's at is the one he visited earlier in the movie.
Yes.
Mercedes Zarro, who is someone to him, whether that's, girlfriend or wife or whatever. Yeah. Jackson starts taking shots at him, almost kind of toying with him, right? Because we know he's a good shot.
Right.
And we know he could probably take him out anytime, but he's hitting like parts of the cross, just kind of playing around. He's like, essentially telling him to, tells him if he has any last words, now would be the time to speak.
Pray. Yeah.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you. Yeah. That's important. I can't hear you.
And then he says, what does he say? Can you hear this? And he just unloads that fucking revolver with his like flipper whale hand, just hammering the what is that called? The
cock.
The cock, yeah. The Czech guy's cock. And he takes them all out in glorious Django fashion. He still can figure out how to shoot a bunch of guys in 3 seconds.
Yeah, and the movie ends as it begins with him walking away from
the camera up the hill out of the cemetery,
leaving the gun nesting on his girlfriend's.
Yep,
the bloody gun. It's a really cool shot to end the movie. Yeah,
and it's symbolic, right? Because maybe he's finally leaving this behind him.
Well, he's gonna have to, because
he's mangled. His
hands are worthless.
Yeah.
I do think it is symbolic.
Around, he might be able to save him.
Yeah,
but he does. He goes. I like to imagine he goes back to Maria, right?
Yeah. I mean that's the end. I think we want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to it too.
Yeah. I want to, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, this is a good movie. It's deserving of its stature.
Yeah.
Ding.
Django.
Django. Yeah, I don't know. I'm unlike last week. This is one I can very easily see.
Yeah.
Continuing to watch.
Yeah, it's a fun one to watch too, multiple times. Like, give it about 6 months or a year and come back to it, because it still kind of surprises you. I've seen this movie I don't know how many times, but I always kind of forget some of the beats, and I don't know why. Every time I watch this, I think that the lead up to the scene with the gun in the town with all of Major Jackson's men comes so much later, but it doesn't. It's in the first
shockingly
act.
early.
It's like the end of the first act. Yeah. So,
I do like that this is the first of Corbucci's Mud and Blood trilogy.
yes.
So there's more mud. I can't wait.
Well, you got to watch The Great Silence. It's awesome. Jason, have you seen The Specialists or whatever they're saying is the third?
Yes.
And this is revisionist stuff too. Like, Corbucci didn't call this a trilogy.
Right.
Well, sure.
They're critics kind of combining common themes or movies with common themes together.
Like Mud and Blood.
Yeah. All three of those are really good. Specialist is very good as well.
I'm pretty sure that Fulci didn't have a planned Gates of Hell trilogy either, Chuck. So.
Right.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. I wasn't questioning whether it was. I think it was not.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, revisionist trilogy shit.
Argento, maybe the Mother trilogy is legit.
Maybe. I'll never forget when Jason, you and I saw the new Suspiria. And that one guy was all over all of the mothers and all of it's like, oh my God.
I know.
Oh my God. Imagine sitting next to him on the car ride home. Aren't you a lucky lady, girlfriend of his?
Speaking of Fulci, should I mention what next week is?
Yes.
The New York Ripper. Back to my Italian roots, a giallo, but this is a wild one.
This Fulci is Fulci through.
Yes. Yeah. I fully expect one of Jason, you've seen it, right?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I fully expect one of you to hate it.
I'm gonna love it. I'm betting on Jason.
I don't know if I will. Like, being Italian gives it so many passes.
But you're not a huge Fulci fan, if I remember correctly.
That's true. I'm not a huge Fulci fan.
I am. So I'm on board, Chuck.
Okay, interesting. Because I mean, he's middle of the road for me, but the ones that hit really hit for me, and the ones that don't really don't.
Yes, I mean, I will admit it's like I've seen some junky ass Fulci films, but I've seen some really good Fulci films.
Yeah,
Zombie, the Gates of Hell trilogy, I love anyway, and then
I do really like his spaghetti western with Franco Nero and George Hilton. It's really good. Massacre Time.
Really it's good. That's good.
Yeah.
What was the other one that I was trying to think of his? Black Cat is fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah. So this one I think is going to put one of you on the fence, but we'll see. I hope everyone loves it because I have a lot of fun with it.
I am ready to go because this is the one that's got the Donald Duck guy, right?
Yeah.
4 of the Apocalypse. That's another good one. He made some good spaghetti westerns.
He's made some good movies, Jason.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I like The Beyond.
The Beyond is good too. Whew. Yeah.
I like Warriors of the Year 2072. I love that movie. It's so stupid, but I love it. I like The Devil's Honey. I mean, I really like
Devil's Honey. I mean,
talk about depraved too. I mean,
but that's
you want some depravity. This one is going to give it to you.
This is Fulci depravity at its.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it.
Awesome. I look forward to this discussion. So that's next week.
Yes. What that is? What? Oh, the 17th, January 7th. I looked at that like,
ooh, I can't believe it.
January 17th, right? Dead smack middle in the month there. Perfect. So yeah, that is going to be at filmseizure.com. You can also find all the places where you can follow us on the socials, on the various, podcast providers and stuff. Go there to do all of that. Also, go there this upcoming Monday the 15th of January is a new episode of Monster Mondays, Drag Me to Hell. We briefly mentioned that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, or
I
Sam
want to
Raimi.
mention real quickly, because we talked about Cannibal Holocaust last week.
Haha.
Ruggiero
Yes. I
Diodato
meant to
was
bring that up,
assistant
yeah.
director on Django. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing missing is Django fucking shoving a pole up somebody's taint all the way up through their mouth.
Yeah.
More taint, baby.
Yep. Anyway, so Drag Me to Hell this upcoming Monday on Monster Mondays at filmseizure.com. At my website, bmovieanima.com, it's still Steven Seagal month. And it's the one movie I actually liked for all the dumbest reasons, Urban Justice.
Oh, yeah.
That's a bad movie, but it's a fun bad movie. It's a real like one of these days I may have to bring that to this show. It's so stupid and fun.
Wow.
But I kind of dug it. Anyway, that is this Friday. Maybe my brain's already rotted, but no, I promise you it isn't, because the next two movies of the Seagal month are fucking awful. So anyway, that is at bmovieanima.com.
Oh, it's got Eddie Griffin in it.
Yes, it does. He's the bad guy. I mean, hey, big thumbs up for Django.
Yes.
A great example of the spaghetti Western.
Thank
Great
you,
example.
Chuck, for bringing it to our trip to Italy.
Yes.
You're welcome, everyone.
And it is a great example of a revenge movie, and a smart revenge movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
With layers and nuance, yes.
And a whole hell of a lot of mud.
Whole lot of mud, whole lot of bullets.
Yes. Anyway, so that does it for this week. We're going to New York. Finger quotes. Big time.
We're going to New York a little
We're
bit.
going to New York next
for
week.
a couple establishing shots.
For a couple of establishing shots.
Stolen from Zombie.
Yeah.
I think stolen from Zombie.
Probably.
Oh God, of course they were. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. It's like, in fact, you can still see the zombies walking on the bridge. You know? Yeah.
But that boat is still in the water.
Oh, there's the
with
shark.
the big fat one. Yeah. Anyway, so that's next week. Until then, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
And I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.